Chapter 11. You are listening at Novel Full. Audio. Congratulations. No matter how much I really want to kiss you right now, I'll still suggest that you keep the money, he said before his hand released my chin as he stood up straight. I was stunned into silence. Was he seriously going to kiss me again? I placed my fingertips to my still trembling lips. Was I waiting for him to kiss me? Why? I began asking, but a woman's voice rang out, disturbing out conversation. Excuse me. An attractive blonde woman with a sparkly wide smile called out to him. Her deep red knee-length dress hugged the beautiful curves of her body as she walked. Her red lipstick matched the color of her dress perfectly. However, she stopped in her tracks when he turned around to face her. I thought that she was about to say something, but she closed her mouth immediately when the man placed his index finger up to his lips. Clearly the message got across because the woman nodded slightly before turning around and leaving the way that she came without saying another word. See you around, the man said before turning sharply on his heels. I stood there in silence as I watched the broad back of the tall man walking away from me with his long strides. Still confused as to what just happened, I couldn't bring myself to call him back. I was also sure that even if I did, he would not turn back around. I wonder what just happened and who that woman was. Was that beautiful woman his girlfriend? I heaved a sigh as I walked out of the building and stared up at the dark and starless sky above. That was a complete failure. Not only was I unable to return a cent of his money, but I had also failed in getting information about him. I still didn't know his bank account. Worst, I didn't even know his name. The only thing I got from our exchange was a burning ache where his fingers had grasped my chin. The only thing my mind seemed to remember well was the beauty of his arrogant smile, the heated look in his eyes as he looked at me, and the smell and heat of his body. Not like I could use any of that information to find him. How was the interview? My mother asked excitedly as she placed a bowl of vegetable soup on the table. It went well, I think, I replied, truthfully. Really? Tell me more, she said encouragingly. Well, I think I was able to answer all of their questions, and I think I showed that I had motivation and passion to join the company, so yeah. I said before flashing her a smile. This company, if I'm not wrong, it's always been your first choice, right? You're always talking about it, my mother said as she seemed to recall some memories from the past. Yes. This might sound weird, but I'm happy that I got a chance to interview there. If I end up not getting the job, I'll still be happy that I got the opportunity to interview there, I stated proudly. I heard the pay is good too, my mother said wistfully. Yup, you're right, I said as I smiled back at her. Days turned into weeks as I waited with anticipation for the result of my job interview. To be honest, I wasn't sure if I would get an offer, and I wouldn't say that the odds were in my favor. However, I still had a glimpse of hope that I would be receiving an offer letter. Not knowing what to do about it, I prayed late at night before I went to bed every night that I would get the job. If I get the job, maybe I'll run into that man again, and for sure this time, I'll return his money back to him. A few weeks passed by just like that until the fateful day for my interview result arrived via call. I didn't know what I would do with myself if I had missed that phone call by mistake. Luckily, I was sitting right next to my mobile phone when it started vibrating on the table. When I saw an unrecognized number on the screen, I picked it up immediately. I usually don't get calls from unknown people, and most ended up being telesales people calling to sell things that I didn't need. However, for this call, I had a feeling that it was the call that I had been waiting for. Hello. I am calling from Jessen Hills. Am I speaking to Miss Karina Miller? Yes. I said, trying to control my excitement. We have very good news. After a very competitive test, interview process and much consideration, we are pleased to offer you a position at our company. We will be emailing you the details of the job contract soon and will invite you to come in to sign the contract with us at headquarters, the lady explained professionally through the phone. I was finding it hard to believe what I was hearing as I clutched my mobile phone tightly in my palm, pressing it against the side of my face. This is not a dream, right? This is really happening. Yes. Thank you so much, was all that I could manage to say. Thank you so much and congratulations again. Our HR representative will be in touch with you shortly via email. Have a good day, the woman said before hanging up. Once the line disconnected, I stood up and squealed with delight. I was so loud that my mother came running. What's going on? Are you okay? She asked with concern clear on her face. She must think that I'm going crazy. Yes. I am more than okay. I did it, Mom. I cried out excitedly. You did what exactly? My mother asked, confused. I did it, Mom. I got the job. I got the job at Jesson Hills. I shouted so loudly that I was sure that our neighbors could hear me as well. The one with the high pay. Wow. Really? Wow, my mother screamed as excitedly. Yeah. Really, wow. I cried back in joy. I'm so happy for you. Big congrats, girl. You did it. This has always been your dream, she said as she beamed at me proudly. Thank you, Mom, I said as we hugged each other tightly. I could feel tears sting my eyes as I held her in my arms. This job isn't just for me, and it isn't my own success. I had my mother to thank for all the hard work she has put into raising me. This job is going to improve our lives. Hopefully, my mother would be able to retire soon or at least, work less than now. We have to celebrate, my mother declared as she slowly let go of me. Where are you going? I asked when I saw my mother get up and grab her bag. Out, of course. I have to go buy some good food so that we can celebrate this properly, my mother said with determination as she turned to head towards the exit. I think the food you just made is more than enough, I said as I pointed to the food she had placed on the table. Nonsense. Today is a special day. You just got your first real job. You've grown into a full-fledged adult now and I am so proud of you, my mother said before dabbing at the tears in her eyes. Without knowing how else to keep her here, I watched as my mother happily left the house to buy some food for us. I was sure that she would be back with Auntie as well because she couldn't possibly keep such good news to herself for long. I had people that I wanted to share this good news with too as I picked up my phone. To be continued. Chapter 12. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The Forbidden Rule. Hey girls. I said cheerfully into the group video call with my two best friends. Lillian and Jennifer. We've been friends since university started and went through university together. Throughout the 4 years, we helped each other out and worked so hard towards our graduation. Hi. I can just tell by how cheerful you are that you have some good news to share. Am I right? Lillian said with a bright smile. Yup. Even I can tell that much as well. So. Tell us. Jennifer demanded. I got the job. I announced proudly before clapping my hands and laughing with joy. Oh wow. Lillian cried out happily. Congratulations. Jennifer exclaimed almost at the same time as Lillian as they both heard my good news. Although we all acted so excited, it was a fact that I was the last person out of the 3 of us that landed a full-time job after graduation. Lillian was the first one who got a job as part of the PR team at one of the leading cosmetic and personal care company. I had to say that the job suited her style so much that I envied her at the time. Soon after, Jennifer got a job working in a design team for a jewelry and accessories company. I remembered we went out to celebrate by eating buffet for dinner followed by watching a late-night movie together. Just the 3 of us. Those were the good times. After those 2 got their job, things got very busy for them, and we saw each other less than before. I missed them, but I was happy that they were adjusting well to their new phase of life and their new job. Now, it seems like it was finally my turn. Thank you. Since you're both ahead on this new job curve, don't forget to tell me some tips and tricks. I'm actually quite nervous about this. I admitted truthfully. Sure thing. You can count on us. Although I would say that I'm still pretty nervous at work. Everyone is just so much more experienced, you know. My team is also small, so I was the only new joiner in this batch. Jennifer said with a loud sigh. I quite like my job so far. The seniors in my team are so friendly and helpful. I haven't gotten the hang of everything yet, but I think I'm getting there. Don't worry, Risa. I'm sure you'll do fine as always, Lillian said comfortingly. I chatted with the girls until my mother came back from her food shopping trip. We enjoyed dinner together along with Auntie, who, as I had guessed, was brought home by my mother. When dinner was over, I walked Auntie back to her house before coming back to rejoin my mother. That night we prayed in front of my father's photo and told him the good news. I wondered how he would react and what he would say to me if he was still alive. I don't remember him at all, so it was difficult for me to imagine his reactions. That night I watched as my mother went to sleep with a smile on her face. I'm sure that she was tired from her work but still went out to buy food for us. She was extremely happy, and I felt extremely proud of myself. The day that I would be able to support our family was fast approaching. After signing the job contract, I formally became an employee of Jessin Hills, and today marks the first day of work for me. Today is orientation day. Every new joiner must go through a short 2-day orientation course. The first day HR would go over everything from the company's history, rules and regulations, employee benefits and everything else that we needed to know. The second day was reserved for team building activities with the main objective for new joiners to get to know each other. I sat in an auditorium with a large stage in front and a projector screen. This was a different auditorium from the one that I was in when I was a candidate. I guess I shouldn't be surprised that this building had multiple auditoriums considering its size and state of the art technology. Suddenly the lights in the auditorium dimmed and a middle-aged woman walked up on the brightly lit stage. Although she was old, she still radiated activeness and poise. The woman was dressed in a black business suit with matching skirt that looked expensive, and her hair was swept up in a stylish knot at the back of her head. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Jessin Hills. My name is Nina Leslie, and I am the head of human resources of this company. It is an honor to be here to welcome all of you here today. Today we will be going over the history of our company, our mission and motivation. Then my colleague will take you through the various details that will help you have a smooth transition into this company, the woman said in a very clear voice. Everything about her was professional yet warm and empathetic. Before that, I would like to inform you of an ironclad rule that this company would like all of its employees to strictly uphold at all times. In this company, romantic relationships between employees are strictly forbidden, the woman announced in a very serious tone. What? Seriously? In this time and age, this rule still exists. I thought this company was supposed to be modern. No big deal, right? We can always date someone outside the company. Isn't the rule a little weird? I heard various murmurs from all around me as everyone started expressing their shock and discontent over the no-dating rule. I personally didn't think that this rule was necessary. If we are supposed to be professional enough, then we should be able to separate our personal from our professional lives. However, I guess I could understand the point of view of the company. It could be counterproductive or cause unnecessary conflict and tension if employees dated each other. Especially when the relationship went sour. To be continued. Chapter 13. You are listening at novelfull.audio. 13. Meeting an angel. I actually didn't care about it much. I'm here to work, not to date, so the rule, even if it exists, wouldn't have an impact on me anyways. I guess the people who were overly worried about it wanted to find their soulmate in this place, not that I blamed them. This company was huge and had many qualified employees. It wasn't a bad place to find your significant other. The woman on stage cleared her throat and the murmurs in the auditorium came to a halt. Her face was dead serious as she scanned her eyes across the crowd of audiences in front of her. What you understand is correct. Employees in this company are not allowed to date or have any type of romantic relationship with another employee. Anyone caught breaking this rule will face immediate termination. I hope that I have made myself and the rule extremely clear to all of you, the woman said, continuing to stress on her every word. Everyone in the crowd, including myself, nodded our heads as the situation got serious and tension filled the air. Immediate termination was what she said just now. If anyone were to get caught breaking this rule, they would lose their job immediately. Now that is one hell of a harsh punishment for breaking the rule. Good. That will be all from me. Now, please welcome my colleague who will walk you through a brief presentation of our company's history followed by a short video for you all to watch. Thank you once again for your attention and I wish you the best of luck for your future career, the woman said before flashing us a smile full of teeth. She bowed slightly before walking off from the stage. Her younger colleague came on stage and took over from here. The rest of the session was uneventful, and the information was pretty standard. After a brief lunch break where we were shown to the company's cafeteria that took up an entire floor. We had lunch there before we continued with the session in the afternoon. By the time that it was time to go home, I felt so drained of energy that I thought that I would fall over on my face into a deep slumber. Although the session was useful, it was extremely boring and too long in my opinion. I prayed that the team building session tomorrow would be more fun and interactive. It should be, since we've been instructed to wear clothes that were easy to move in because we would be playing some team building games indoors. I heard the bell-like sound signaling that the elevator that I had been riding on had arrived on the ground floor where the lobby was. I reached into my bag for my mobile phone but for some reason I couldn't find it. I stepped aside and began looking through my bag. It's not here. Did I forget it in the auditorium? That I clicked my tongue in annoyance at my own forgetfulness. Why did I have to be such a clumsy person and on the first day of work no less? There was nothing that I could do beside returning to the auditorium to find my phone. I just hoped that the auditorium wasn't locked up yet, otherwise this will turn into a bigger deal than it has to be. I walked as quickly as I could in my heels towards the auditorium once the elevator opened. I was relieved to see that the auditorium didn't seem locked. I was about to push the door open with my hand when the door suddenly moved on its own. Since I had shifted my weight to push open the super heavy door, I found myself losing balance and falling forward. This can't be happening to me. I squeezed my eyes closed tightly as I braced my body for the impact of my fall. The only saving grace was that everyone should have left already so no one would be here to witness my downfall, literally. Are you all right? Ha! I slowly opened my eyes at the sound of a man's voice. His voice sounded so heavenly calm, gentle and kind. It was as if he was talking to an adorable child that needed tender loving care. The face that greeted me so close to my own when I opened my eyes matched my imagination of the owner of such a heavenly calm voice. He that looks like an angel. My eyes widened as I took in his beautiful angelic features. Very light blue eyes, light blonde hair, slightly tan skin, full lips that was currently curved into a small smile and straight nose. I have never seen a man so beautiful. Are you okay? Are you hurt anywhere? The man said softly. I blinked rapidly as the sound of his voice broke the spell that his angelic features seemed to have casted on me. Finally, the reality of what was happening hit me. The man was still holding my body in his arms as he saved me from falling forward onto my face. I see, so he was the one who suddenly opened the door from the other side. I'm fine, that I'm so sorry. I managed to say in a stutter when I found my voice. Oh no, not at all. I'm sorry, I think it's actually my fault for opening the door so suddenly, the man apologized before smiling at me. Oh, that I'm still in his arms. As if he realized this as well, the man slowly loosening the hold he had on my body. We stood facing each other and the atmosphere around us started to feel awkward. Oh hell, I completely forgot why I came here in the first place. Sorry, I didn't know that there was still someone here. I thought that everyone had gone home. I said to break the awkward silence. Yeah. I'm the last person here. I'm about to head back too. What about you? Why are you here? He asked curiously as he cocked his head slightly to the side. I didn't know why, but I found it so adorable when he did this. Oh, actually, I realized that I've forgotten my phone somewhere and I came here looking for it. I said a little shyly. To be continued. Chapter 14. You are listening at novelfull.audio. 14 Fateful Attraction. I'm glad you're here then, the man said before he started to laugh a little. I sucked in a breath when his hand reached out and handed me my phone. He found my phone. Wow, what a lucky coincidence. You found my phone. Wow, thank you. You've really saved me. I said, feeling a mix of surprise and relief. It would be such a huge hassle to lose my phone, not to mention that I didn't have spare money to buy a new one. I couldn't wait to get my first paycheck at the end of the month, seriously. Must have been fate, the man said softly as he smiled so gently at me. His light blue eyes seemed to shine, and I couldn't look away. Before I could stop myself, I started laughing. My reaction confused the man so much that he stared at me, a little taken aback by my reaction. Sorry. I just thought that it was a little funny. You see, I thought to myself that it's such a lucky coincidence that you found my phone. But you called it fate. I said as my laughing came to a stop and I smiled sweetly back at him. I see. My name is Kyle, I just joined the company today. I'll be working in the planning department, Kyle introduced himself. So, his name is Kyle, and he just joined the company just like me. Nice to meet you. I'm Karina, Rena for short. I guess we're in the same batch, I just joined the company today too. I'll be in the design department, I introduced myself, suddenly feeling a little shy. So, I guess you were here for the orientation too, right? He asked. Yup, that's right. I didn't see you though, there were so many people. I replied. I guess. Oh, the no dating rule the head of HR told us today was quite crazy, isn't it? He asked with a small laugh. Yeah. I didn't expect a rule like that in this company. It seems a little old-fashioned, I guess, I replied before laughing along with him. I think so too. I mean, you can't really stop people from falling in love, can you? He said, his tone suddenly sounding serious. I couldn't breathe when his pale blue eyes met and held mine. I guess, he was right, you can't really stop people from falling in love. I guess not. I replied softly as I broke our eye contact and shifted my gaze down to the floor. Can I get your number? Let's keep in touch. You're the first person I've really spoken to today. Kyle said with a shy smile. Oh, sure, I said as I took out my phone and we exchanged numbers. Cool. Are you heading to the station, or did you drive here? He asked. I'm taking the train, you. I said. I drove here. So, he replied, looking conflicted. I see, so we're not heading in the same direction. Oh, then I'll see you tomorrow. I said softly. I can drive you back. If you want, he said abruptly. My eyes widened at his sudden suggestion, and he seemed to notice the abruptness of his suggestion as well. Oh no, it's okay, I declined politely. Sorry, I didn't mean to sound so forward. We just met and I didn't mean it like that, he said, clearly regretting his mistake. No, not at all. I didn't think you meant anything like that, I said reassuringly. It's dark. So what about I just walk you to the station, he suggested brightly. I'm okay, I replied before smiling a little at him. Kyle and I shared small talk about random things and laughed all the way together to the subway station that was a short walk away from the office building. I usually didn't find it easy to talk with guys, but Kyle made it seem so easy. He seemed so kind and open-minded, and that helped me relax in his presence. It wasn't long before I was comfortable around him and the conversation between us flowed smoothly. I waved goodbye to him, and we both wished each other good luck when we arrived at the station and had to part ways for the day. Goodbye. Thank you so much for walking me to the station, I thanked him. You're welcomed. It's no trouble at all, don't worry, I replied with a smile of his own. I'm sorry that you have to walk back alone though, I said teasingly. I told you, it's no trouble at all. Bye. I'll see you tomorrow at work, he said. See you. I whispered. Slowly and hesitantly, we turned away from each other to head our separate ways. The door closed behind me when I arrived home and a small smile curved my lips as I stood there with my back leaned against the closed door. Just thinking about Kyle had me smiling to myself like a fool. I would be lying if I said that I wasn't smiling and giggling a little to myself all the way home. It wasn't like I was in love with him or anything, but his kindness really touched me. I walked away from the door as I shook my head softly from side to side as I recalled the strict rule that our company had against employees dating each other. That thought gave me pause. What on earth am I getting all bothered for? It's not like we're dating. He's not even interested in me. Why am I getting ahead of myself? We're just colleagues and that's it. How was your day at work? My mother asked with a bright smile on her face. It was great. The company is so big and there's so many people, but that's okay. I'll do my best, I replied enthusiastically. Don't overwork yourself, my mother replied. I felt a little uncomfortable about what I wanted to talk to her about next, but I was sure that she saw this coming as well. The company is quite far away from here, so. I began saying. My mother smiled at me and nodded as if she already knew what I was going to say. To be continued. Chapter 15. You are listening at novelfull.audio. 15. The new CEO, don't worry. I'll be fine living alone. I have good friends in this neighborhood so there's nothing for you to worry about. Get a nice new place close to the office so you don't have to waste time and money commuting, my mother said before I could explain anything. Thank you, Mother, I thanked her wholeheartedly. Don't thank me. Thank all the efforts that you put into landing this job. Don't worry about me and just focus on your career, my mother said encouragingly. I'll come back to visit or you can come visit me, I said with a smile. Sure, I'll do that. Don't go to bed too late, she said before she returned my smile. I know. Good night, Mother, I wished her good night. My mother had to start work very early tomorrow and I knew that she needed to go to bed early. I wished her good night with a smile. I was always so thankful of how understanding she is. Once I've settled into my new life, I'll take care of her better. Now that my mother has gone to bed, I should focus on researching for my new accommodation. Although I was hesitant to leave my mother, I knew that she was right. The sooner I move, the better. It would be best if I could find a place before my orientation ended because I had a feeling that when the real work started, I would become very busy and wasting time commuting might not be a viable option anymore. I turned on the television with the intent to passively catch up on some news while I did my research on finding an apartment for rent. The sound from the television filled the quiet room as I began going through some real estate agency websites. There were many options available across various budget ranges. Of course, I was going for the cheapest options available. I didn't mind if the building was old or if there wasn't an elevator. All I wanted for a decently convenient location that wasn't so far from the office via some kind of public transportation. My eyes narrowed as I scrolled through the various websites. Suddenly, something on the news caught my attention because I believed the name of my company was just mentioned. Jessen and Hills is a very famous company and it was always on the news in the business segment and sometimes in the entertainment segment as well. The mention of Jessen and Hills caught my attention and I turned towards the television to watch the news on the screen. It has been publicly announced that Jessen and Hills will have a new CEO after the current CEO has decided to step down. Mr. Eric Hill, the current CEO of Jessens and Hills, has announced his retirement from his current position earlier this evening in a press conference. After many years leading the company, Mr. Hill will be handing his position over to his son, Mr. Ace Hill, as of today, a woman reported politely on the news. This is so sudden. I worked for the company now, but I didn't hear anything about this before. Mr. Eric Hill is famous for being the company founder of the company along with his friend Mr. Jessens. It was unfortunate that Mr. Jessens passed away earlier on from cancer, leaving Mr. Hill to take over the management of the company solely by himself. From then on, the company truly grew and prospered into what it is today. Although I have seen Eric Hill on television multiple times before and knew his face well, the same couldn't be said about my knowledge of his son. The news reporter continued on, and the image on the screen transitioned from Eric Hill to a smoking hot man dressed formally in a smart suit. It can't be. Are my eyes playing tricks on me right now? Because it isn't very funny. I approached the television and brought my face closer to the screen as my eyes narrowed and strained to see the face of the man more clearly. It can't be him. It just can't be him. Dressed in a smart navy suit and looking so confident and as cocky as can be is the man that shoved that thick wad of cash into my hands in the park. Then he kissed me, and then I met him again as my interviewer. Then we kissed again. What is going on? That man is now the CEO of the company. What more, he's Eric Hill's son. I gasped before covering my mouth with both hands as my eyes flew open in shock as this new piece of information started setting into my mind. How can this be possible? That man was the CEO's son all along. And now he's the new CEO. And I acted like that in front of the CEO. My fingertips traced my lips as I began remembering the feel and taste of his kiss on my lips and his tongue inside my mouth. A shiver ran through my body before it froze in shock. I just couldn't believe that that man is now the CEO of my company. He did help me, but he was a very twisted man. Wait. Does that mean that he kissed me even though he knew about the no dating rule? Or was it fine because all we did was kiss and we were not in a relationship or anything? Suddenly, my mind was a mess, and I could no longer pay attention to the news reporter who still continued to report on the CEO change. I grabbed the remote control and changed channel in search for something lighter so that I wouldn't go crazy. My fingers changed the channel to an entertainment one. Seeing gossip around celebrities would probably be good for easing my stress and shock right now. Although Mr. Ace Hill has tried to keep himself away from the spotlight, it is evident from various leaks regarding his numerous love affairs with the rich and famous that his efforts hasn't been all that successful. Now that he is officially the new CEO of Jessens and Hills, we present to you the top 10 list of his hot and steamy love affairs with the rich and famous from over the years. Please enjoy, a cheerful young TV host said. To be continued. Chapter 16. You are listening at novelfull.audio. 16. The Devil Boss arrives. Various photos which seemed like paparazzi shots of Ace with various beautiful women on his arms or locked in his embrace started showing on the screen as the host began narrating through the list of his ex-girlfriends and others that he's had an affair with. I recognized some of the famous names from various industries. Movie stars, singers, supermodels, and other socialites. A sigh escaped my lips as I turned off the television. Who cares about his love affairs anyways? Time to go back and focus on hunting for a new apartment. Time is of the essence here, and I didn't have the time to worry about that crazy player guy. He's the CEO of the company that I work for now, but it didn't really have anything to do with me. I knew that I was way down there on the corporate ladder, and he was way up there, so the chances of us ever meeting again or working together was next to non-existent. After finding a couple of reliable-looking real estate agencies and noting down their address, I decided to visit them soon to see if they could recommend me a place that fitted my requirements and budget. After taking a quick shower, I tiptoed into the bedroom before getting into my bed. My mother was already sound asleep by that time. That night when I lay alone in my bed, my head was filled with thoughts of Ace and Kyle as the two seemed to fight against each other in taking up the space in my mind. The image of Kyle's smiling face and the things that he said to me kept entering my head. Even though I tried to push thoughts about him away from me, I wasn't exactly successful in doing so. When I closed my eyes, the scene of us together would pop up and replay itself behind my closed eyelids. Then I would see memory of Ace's cocky smile and how he forced money on me. I didn't even know his name until just now. It was a while before I finally fell asleep from a mix of exhaustion and confusion. The next day everything seemed a lot more chaotic when I arrived at the office. The chaos started even before I stepped foot inside of the office building. The employees had formed small groups here and there in the company's lobby and also in front of the company's entrance. Walking past a couple of groups made me quickly realize that they were gossiping frantically about the new CEO. That wasn't surprising since the change in CEO was supposed to be a big news to everyone. However, the content of their gossip caught my attention. Basically, there was a wild mix of the good and the bad. The staff seemed to enjoy sharing their version of gossips with each other because they spoke quite loudly, and I didn't have any trouble overhearing them. He is the only son of the current CEO and I also heard that he's a devil at work. Everyone who worked with him before said that he's super scary to work for. He's so strict and so mean, although he's supposed to be very good at what he does. I heard that he used to work abroad in many countries, and he has a good track record of setting up his own companies. It's been a while now since then, so he has finally decided to take over his family business from his father. That's not all. There are loads of rumors surrounding him. Have you heard? I heard that he has a lot of affairs with the people that work with him, especially the beautiful women. He changes his secretary very often. I don't know how much of those rumors are true, though. I heard that he's a genius. Apart from his family business, he has a lot of businesses that he created on his own. I heard his father wanted him to take over this company a long time ago, but he refused, saying that he'd rather start something on his own. And then, after establishing so many successful companies, he's now back to turn this company around and take it to greater heights. I know that there's so many rumors about him and it's pretty scary, but I think we should wait and see how he does. I'm just hoping that the rumors about him being a devil CEO and a devil boss isn't true. I walked along the building's lobby as these rumors floated around in the air and entered my ear. I didn't need to make an effort to hear them because the people were talking loud enough for them to be heard. I quickly made my way up the elevator to the auditorium where I would be attending the second day of my orientation. Surprisingly, I ran into Kyle right in front of the auditorium. He was leaning casually against the wall, and I wondered if he also heard the rumors from downstairs and the news that the company had gotten a new CEO. He waved and smiled at me the moment that he spotted me, and I found myself smiling back at him naturally. The way that his beautiful smile lit up his face made me believe that he was such an angel. I approached him with a smile on my face. "Good morning. You're here quite early," I said before I flashed him a smile. "I could say the same thing about you." "Excited for the second day of orientation?" Kyle asked. "Yes, there's supposed to be some team activities today, so I'm looking forward to that. Honestly, the lectures yesterday was a little bit boring and a little scary with all the rules and everything," I confessed my honest thoughts. "L.C. I know, right? Let's enjoy our orientation together today," Kyle said invitingly. I had a feeling that it was going to be a good day already. "Sure," I replied with another smile. Soon it was time for the orientation to start and we made our way into the auditorium. Kyle invited me to take the seat next to him and that was what I did. The second day of the orientation started right on time with the same middle-aged woman coming up on stage to make an announcement. Her announcement shocked everyone in the auditorium, including myself. "Listen up everyone. As you have probably seen on the news, our company has had a change in management. As of today, Mr. Ace Hill will be taking over as the company's CEO. And I am delighted to share with you today that Mr. Ace has taken his time to share a word of inspiration with you to mark the start of your journey at this company. Please put your hands together for Mr. Ace, our new CEO, the woman announced before stepping aside and clapping her hands together. There was a moment of silence as everyone was stunned by the sudden announcement that the new CEO would be giving a welcome speech to the new employees who have just joined the company. After a moment of stunned silence, the auditorium exploded with the loud sounds of people clapping their hands in applaud. The spotlight turned on and focused on a man as he walked up on stage and stood behind the podium. To be continued. Chapter 17. You are listening at novelfull.audio. 17. Angel and Devil. Ace was dressed in a smart all-black suit with a white shirt. Although I was seated quite far from the stage, I still thought that he looked amazingly handsome in that suit. After waiting for the applause in the auditorium to die down, Ace began delivering his speech. If I had to describe his speech, I would say that it was harsh, straightforward, but strangely very motivating. After briefly introducing himself and extending a few polite words of welcome to us, Ace began delivering the main message of his speech. Thank you everyone for joining this company. I understand that each and every one of you may have different reasons for joining this company, but I hope that everyone will work together towards a common goal that is aligned to the company's vision. As the new CEO of this company, I am determined to take this company to new heights. And I'm overjoyed that everyone here will be part of the journey. I hope that everyone contributes more than 100% always to their work with full commitment while adhering strictly to the rules set by this company. Thank you very much, Ace said with full confidence as he enunciated each word clearly. After ending his speech, Ace looked around with a determined look in his eyes at the people sitting in the full auditorium. After seemingly satisfied at what he was seeing, he nodded his head before turning on his heels and to stride off the stage. After that, the second day of our orientation proceeded smoothly and normally as planned. The woman came back up on stage and explained the group activity for team building that we will work on as part of our second day of orientation. At the back of the auditorium, on the furthest side of the wall, there are papers posted with your name. Please look for your name to find out which group you are in, and then please find the number of your group to find and form your team members. Each team will have 2 team leads who will help facilitate the team building game. I hope that you will benefit from this activity, that you will know and learn more about the other people who have started this new journey with you. Please enjoy your second day of orientation, she said. After the woman ended her instruction and got off the stage, everyone busily got out of their seat and headed towards the various papers posted on the walls in order to look for their name. Shall we go? Kyle asked. I nodded my head as I smiled at him. He led the way through the crowd towards the nearest wall with papers posted, and our eyes began scanning it to look for our name. I think I found my name, he turned to say to me. I just found mine too, I replied as my eyes narrowed and focused on my name on the piece of paper. To my pleasant surprise, I soon found out that Kyle was in the same team as me. I think we're on the same team, he said before turning to smile at me. I guess you're right about that. Your name is almost next to mine, I said before I returned his smile. Honestly, I'm not very good at this. I admitted a little shyly. It's okay, I'll help you, so don't worry, Kyle said reassuringly as he took my hand in his. His hand felt warm around mine and it gave me a little more strength and confidence in myself. The first half of team building was to form a large circle to carry a large ball in the center of the circle as a group. I honestly wasn't very good at physical activities and sports, so I didn't feel very confident that I could contribute so much to the group. Just make sure to hold my hand tightly and everything will be fine, Kyle said before giving me a firm nod. I smiled and nodded back at him in acknowledgement. With his help and the help of other people in my team, we were able to complete the task flawlessly, although we didn't make it as the first group who completed the task of transporting the large ball from point A to point B. However, we still did decently well, placing somewhere in the middle among the other groups. The day went by as we were asked to participate in other similar team building activities. Overall, I thought that the most interested and the best part was that the activities helped us to get to know other people in the company better. I found out the teams were smartly structured so that new joiners came from a well-balanced mix of departments. That meant that I made friends from different departments. For example, Kyle was from planning, Serena was from creatives, Jamie was from accounting, and Susanna was from operations. There were around 10 people on my team including Kyle and myself. After wrapping up the activities for the second day, our group decided to go drinking as a way to celebrate the end of our orientation. Although I had plans to go looking for an apartment at the end of the day, I decided to postpone it because I wanted to join in the party with my newly made friends. "Do you have a place in mind?" one of the girls asked. "I'm fine with anything," I replied honestly. "Would you rather go to a karaoke so that there will be some activity for us to do, or do you want to have dinner and just chill out?" one of the guys asked. Honestly, I was fine with anything, so I left it to the other people in the team to make the decision. I turned to Kyle to see that he was looking at me and I found myself smiling back at him. I wondered what Kyle liked to do. Was he an activities person or would he rather just sit back and chill at the end of a tiring day? In the end, the team decided to go for a relaxing dinner and then follow that up with drinks at a nearby bar. To be continued. Chapter 18. You are listening at novelfull.audio. 18. Wanting more of him. At the end of the workday, our team headed to a restaurant that one of the members helped to book. The restaurant was quite small, but it served very interesting foods and the atmosphere was one of the best things about the place. The orange and dim light was the perfect atmosphere for a relaxing dinner after a tiring and long day of team-building exercises. Everyone was in high spirits and after ordering our food, everyone started chatting immediately. For most of the people it was their first full-time job. Only 2 people had a full-time job prior to this one and had moved over from another company. Overall, everyone was extremely excited to get a chance to work for this company and obviously I shared the same sentiment as everybody else in my team. "Is anyone still looking for a place to stay close to the office?" Susanna asked. "I'm actually still searching for a place. My old place is very far from the office, so I was hoping to find a place closer," I chimed in. "I think I know a few good real estate agencies," Kyle said as he turned to look at me. Kyle was sitting next to me, and I wasn't sure if it was just my own imagination, but I felt like he was sitting a little close, not that I minded. "Would you mind showing me the list? I did some research last night but I'm still not sure whether these agents that I found are trustworthy or not," I said. "Sure thing," Kyle replied enthusiastically. "Do you already have a place?" Kyle, another member of the team, asked. "Yes, I already got a place," he replied casually. It seemed that Kyle was well prepared for starting this new job. He had a place, and he also had a car. For some reason, I felt like he came from a well-off family, and it showed in everything that he does. His mannerism, the way he carried himself, the clothes that he had on, the fact that he had a car and so on. The conversation quickly steered away to more cheerful topics as the people started talking about their potential bosses and what they thought their new bosses were going to be like. That reminded me of the Devil CEO rumors that were floating around in the lobby of the building from this morning. From my personal experience of running into Ace a couple of times, it wasn't hard for me to imagine him being a Devil CEO. I definitely could see him being very strict, mischievous, and perhaps even on the edge of evil. Despite all that, I didn't doubt for a moment that he had the skills to really take this company forward and I was excited and anxious to see what changes he would bring now that he had taken over this company from his father. The food tasted great, and it wasn't too greasy. There was just a decent amount of spice to it. When dinner came to an end, and everyone was excited to head off to our next destination, which was a nearby bar. Apparently one of the girls on the team knew a bartender who worked there, and I didn't ask for any more details. The bar was small, but it seemed to cater to a very niche clientele. Just like the restaurant, the atmosphere was great for conversing and just chilling out. "What would you like for a drink?" Kyle asked. I turned towards him as he handed me a small drinks menu. I'm actually not very good at ordering these things because I don't really drink. I replied honestly. Then what about a cocktail? Kyle suggested as he pointed to a cocktail with a mix of apple juice. Sure, I'll trust you on this one, I replied before smiling sweetly at him. We were seated at the bar and some of the other guys had started walking around. It was getting late and I knew that I should head back home before my mother started to worry. My house was also far away from here, so it would take time for me to get back and I didn't want to arrive home too late. I glanced at my watch and decided that I should leave soon. Do you have to go somewhere? Kyle asked. He probably saw me glancing at my watch and wondered if I had to leave in a hurry. Not really, I just don't want to get home late, that's all, I replied truthfully. You did mention that your place was far away. Is it that far away? Kyle asked with apparent concern. Yeah, it's very far. That's why I'm desperately looking for a new place, but I've got a limited budget, though. So, I don't think that I can be too picky, I replied while feeling a little shy. If you don't mind, let's go see some places together. I can help you out, Kyle kindly offered. Sure, that would be nice, I readily agreed before I smiled at him. Kyle was so kind and moving to the city was new for me, so I was thankful for his guidance. Soon the drinks that we ordered arrived and after clinking our glasses together I placed the small cocktail glass to my lips and started sipping. The sweet and aromatic taste of the cocktail entered my mouth and soothed my tongue. It was a pleasantly sweet drink and it wasn't hard to drink at all, unlike the other alcoholic drinks that I've experienced before. It didn't take long for me to like the flavor. I wondered if we will still get to see each other after we start working for our different departments, Kyle said, and for a moment he looked slightly depressed. That was a good question. I wasn't sure what life would be like after we ended our orientation and started working for our respective departments. Kyle and I were going to work in different departments, so I wasn't sure whether I would be seeing him often anymore. A small aching pain in my chest told me that I wanted to see more of him, and I wondered if he felt the same way. I felt his eyes on my face and when I looked towards him our eyes met. To be continued. Chapter 19. You are listening at novelfull.audio. 19. The beginning of many nights his eyes held mine as he stared deeply into my eyes, and I thought that his eyes looked so captivatingly beautiful. In that moment, I felt like we were the only two people in the world and I had completely forgotten about the other team members that were around us. It took a lot of willpower to break the spell that Kyle seemed to have casted on me as I broke eye contact and began looking around the small bar. I could see that our friends have started to separate into pairs or into smaller groups as they form their own side conversations. I have no idea if we will get to see each other that much anymore. I replied a little regretfully. Do you want to see me more? Kyle asked as he looked straight at me. I was surprised that it didn't take me long to figure out that I also wanted to see Kyle more and that I was a little scared that after we went our separate ways to work for our department, I would never see him again. Jessens and Hills was a very large company with many thousands of employees, so it wasn't odd that I would be afraid that we wouldn't be in touch anymore. I would go to my new department and I would make new friends while he would go to his new department and he would also meet new friends there. Suddenly it became very likely that we would never cross paths again after our orientation ended and I had very mixed feelings about that. It would be great if we could keep in touch, you know, even after we start working for our departments, I confessed to him honestly. Me too, he replied seriously. At that moment, his hand reached for mine and held it. My eyes widened in slight surprise at how straightforward he was and the implication behind his words. His hand tightened a little around mine. Just as his hand held mine, his eyes held mine as well and I could feel the connection between us. I was surprised at my own forwardness. Normally I wouldn't say these things. So perhaps it was the alcohol in me talking. However, I didn't think that I drank that much. Although my head felt a little light and hazy, I wasn't quite sure if I was drunk or not, or maybe I was just trying to blame the whole thing on the alcohol. After sharing some more light and casual conversation with Kyle, it was like I had fallen under his spell once again. I glanced at my watch and found out that it was time that I should head back home. However, now that the time had arrived, I didn't want to go home at all. I just wanted to stay here and spend more time with Kyle. The way he smiled at me and the way he spoke to me so sweetly told me that he also shared my thoughts. "Shall we leave?" Kyle asked, and I didn't miss the suggestion or the desire burning in the depths of his eyes. "Yes," I replied as I lowered my gaze shyly. We stood up from our seat at the bar and began making our way towards the exit. I felt a little tipsy, but I was far from drunk. However, I think the alcohol did make me a little braver and bolder. I watched as Kyle told our other team members that we would be leaving first for the night. "Let's keep in touch after we start working officially," he said before waving goodbye. I turned and waved at our other team members too. They smiled and waved back as we said our farewells for the night. Once we left the bar, Kyle's arm was around my waist as I leaned my body against his. He supported me as we walked, and I was thankful for his support and the warmth of his body against mine. It was useless to deny that I felt very attracted to him. "Are you sure you're not drunk, Karina? You can barely walk straight," Kyle asked me with concern as he supported my body. "Call me Rena," I purred seductively as I leaned close to him. With his arm around my waist, he supported my body against his as we headed to our next destination for the night. A hotel close to the bar where we had been drinking together. My body felt slightly warm from the alcohol, and I was probably slightly tipsy, but it would be a lie if I said that I didn't feel hot for Kyle as well. It wasn't even our first date, but after a couple of hours flirting at dinner and at the bar afterwards, we were both ready to quickly move on to the next phase. I could feel the warmth of his body against mine as well as the hardness of his tall and muscular frame. He smells so nice, and there's something about his pale blue eyes that captivates me every time he looks me in the eyes. I felt myself blushing at my own dirty thoughts. I don't remember the details of how we checked in and arrived at our hotel room, but I clearly remember how aggressively we tore at each other's clothes the moment that the door to the room closed behind us and we were finally alone. Without a word, Kyle pinned my back against the wall and kissed me so passionately that I lost my breath, and my legs grew weak. I kissed him back hungrily as he held my face in between his warm hands. Our tongue thrusting out to meet each other's as we both tasted one another. It was a very wild and wet kiss that left us both panting for breath. I felt so hungry for him as my desire started to take over. "Stick out your tongue, Rena," Kyle instructed in a low sexy voice. The fact that he called me by my nickname worked to turn me on even more, and I quickly did as he wanted. His tongue grinded against mine as our tongue engaged in a wild and fervent dance. I could taste some of the alcohol on his tongue as we continued to kiss. My hands were on his hard and muscular chest before I started stroking my hands down the plane of his well-toned stomach. To be continued. Chapter 20. You are listening at novelfull.audio. 20. Desire takes over. After that, Kyle impatiently tore open the front of my blouse, sending the tiny buttons flying to expose my chest to him. He unhooked my bra and peeled the cups from my breasts before he started groping both my breasts. I moaned with ecstasy as his hands kneaded my breasts firmly, my nipples standing erect and rubbing against his hot palms. He kissed me again as I impatiently tore his suit from his body and then his tie and white shirt. The sight of his naked upper body was so beautiful and sexy. His muscles were firm and beautifully sculpted. It was clear that he had been working out regularly to maintain his figure. I ran my hands along his hard chest muscles, brushing my fingertips teasingly on his hard nipples, causing him to close his eyes and moan softly. His moan was so sexy, and it turned me on even more as I felt my body getting hotter for him. I squeezed my thighs together as desires stirred in between my legs. There was a pleasurable ache waiting to be fulfilled in my lower abdomen, and I felt a hot wetness gushing out from my love tunnel. I wanted him. I wanted Kyle so badly. "I'm sorry, Rena, but I can't wait anymore. That I need to be inside you now," Kyle panted thickly with lust, and I saw the same need I felt reflected in his eyes. I nodded my head a few times in understanding. My pussy throbbed with need for him to fill me as well. I couldn't wait to feel his cock inside of me. The thought only made my pussy clench and quiver even more as it poured out more wet juices onto my panties. "Please take me," I replied bluntly as I grabbed his hips, bringing it closer to grind against mine. I felt the hardness of his erect member through his pants as we grinded our sex together. The hardness of his cock rubbing firmly against my pussy, and I couldn't wait to feel it inside of me. "Turn around and put your hands on the wall. That I don't think I can be gentle with you, though," Kyle said as he took out a condom and began tearing it open seductively with his teeth. The look of raw passion in his blue eyes as he looked at me told me beyond words how much he wanted me. I stared deeply into his eyes as he slowly tore the pack of condom. A sensual smile formed on my lips before I turned my back towards him and placed my hand on the wall as he had instructed. I bent down and stuck out my hips, thrusting my ass up a little towards him invitingly. "Please hurry," I pleaded with my body turned around and bent over with my hands on the wall as he had instructed, pushing my ass upward slightly to grant him easier access. I felt his impatient hands pull up my skirt until it pooled around my waist, completely bearing my ass to him. His large manly hands stroked my round bottom and squeezed it teasingly before he pulled down my panties in one smooth motion down my legs. I kicked it away from my ankle so that it wouldn't get in our way. I felt his hands sliding up the insides of my thighs and I clenched my wet insides in anticipation of what was surely to come. I closed my eyes and let out a loud moan when his fingers finally found and caressed my flooded opening. Up and down, he caressed my wet slit with his exploring fingers. The repeated motion gave me indescribable pleasure as Kyle continued to stroke the wet slit in between my thighs. "You're already flooded down here." Kyle whispered his observation into my ears seductively as he leaned against my back. I felt rather saw the thick head of his cock lodge itself at my sopping wet entrance as he prepared to penetrate me. My eyes closed as my lips parted slightly while I panted in anticipation of his thrust. I wanted to become one with him so badly. "Ah! Kyle!" I screamed loudly as he entered me in one hard and deep thrust. He was huge, much bigger than I had anticipated, and judging from the fact that he was still pushing deeper into my hole, he was also very long and thick. His member felt deliciously satisfying inside of me as it stretched my entrance and stroked my pussy walls. I couldn't stop myself from moaning as my lust took over in full swing. I rocked my hips backwards against his hips to take him in deeper inside of me. Without pausing, Kyle continued to plow his large love pole into my wet sopping hole until he was buried all the way inside to the hilt. His enormous cock filled and stretched me and it felt amazing. It felt so good to have his cock buried deep inside of me and he hadn't even started thrusting yet. After a moment's pause to allow me to adjust to the shape and size of his cock, Kyle reared his hips back, withdrawing his cock from my love tunnel before he rammed his hot rod back into me again. "Ah! Ah! Ah!" I let out passionate cries to match the rhythm of his fast and wild thrusting as he pumped his cock in and out of me. Kyle's hips jerked and grinded against my ass as he thrusted wildly into my flooded hole. The sounds of our lovemaking filled the hotel room as he both moaned and cried out in pleasure. Wet sounds of his large cock stirring up my melting wet insides echoed throughout the room as our flesh slapped hard against each other. Kyle groaned from behind me as his thrusts intensified. My body rocked in rhythm to his wild cock screwing itself deeply into me from behind. My pussy clenched tightly around his thick shaft as it squirted even more love juices to coat his cock. I moaned and cried out his name as his thrusts hit me deeper and deeper inside until I felt the impact of his thrusts against my womb with each powerful stroke. To be continued.